Guys, I am back. I just watched Possessor. Holy shit, what a movie that is. We're going to talk about it today. It is a Brandon Cronenberg movie, which I think most people knew because he's David Cronenberg's son, and if you follow genre movies, I think you were pretty excited for this one to come out. So this is kind of like a cyberpunky-ish movie, not quite so much in the aesthetic, although there are some pieces, about a assassin for this futuristic alternate reality where you have the technology to possess other people's bodies, and it's about this woman who does that and is executing on a high-profile target, and things go a little awry, but you learn some stuff about her, about the corporation, and just a bunch of hijinks ensue. Whew. This movie is super nihilistic, which, makes sense coming from a Cronenberg, but it is depraved in ways. It is a very bleak movie, very cold, and extremely well executed. I love this movie. I think you're going to have some mixed opinions on this movie, though, because I think a lot of people are going to think it's kind of boring, but for me, there's so many elements coming together here that I was just entertained throughout. So like I said, it's kind of cyberpunky-ish with its technology use. I don't know if the idea of possessing somebody else's body is that unique, but the premise feels fresh. I think it's mainly because of the execution and the visual style. Not just like the stylish flares that they utilize throughout this entire movie, but like the set pieces and everything feel distinctly not traditional. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it feels otherworldly, it feels semi-futuristic or alternate reality-ish. You have chairs that look like this. They drive around in cars that look old. Buildings are just either very modern or very elegant, and it all comes together in this super cohesive package that is just incredible to look at. I love the cinematography out of this movie. There's so many scenes that the blocking and the framing of the shot are so well done. It's so interesting to look at. You have some extremely violent kill sequences in this movie, and it wastes no time. First 5 minutes kind of set the stage for this thing, where you have just an incredibly visceral stabbing scene, and it makes you uncomfortable, and that's kind of how the whole movie feels. You're very uncomfortable. I mentioned a cold feeling. It's just when the music and the visuals and the explicit violence all comes together to just keep you on edge the entire time. There's some great sequences near the middle of the movie, maybe a little bit past that, where there's a paranoia aspect as the character wanders the streets, and it makes you uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is definitely a good descriptor for this movie. Some of the technology plays out in interesting ways, where one of the characters goes to work and his job is to kind of data mine, but it's not in the way I would think data mining works, which is probably done with algorithms and back-end programming. This is more of a manual process where you get to see how corporations just peek into the private life and how they try to subtly control every aspect of what we do. And then there's an overt theme of that with our main character that's just, it's super depressing and nihilistic. Like I said, the lengths that they go to protect and ensure they have this valuable asset. You struggle to be empathetic for this main character, but I think it's all on purpose because it's kind of about losing your identity and feeling alienated in this world. So I do want to get to some spoilers, but I will say I love a lot of Cronenberg movies. This movie kind of reminds me a little bit of Existence, but the thing with David Cronenberg movies, and it's probably more of the times they were made, they're similar in a lot of ways, but they also have a campiness element that this movie really doesn't have. This is much more raw and brutal in a way that at the end of it, I did feel a little shook. Like I said, it's so nihilistic and such a downer in a lot of ways that it's hard to feel happy by the end. But I mean, it's a testament to filmmaking here, where it can just have such an emotional impact on the viewer. So these are some spoilers, and like I said, I highly recommend you watch this movie. The main character's journey in this movie, I did mention you don't feel much empathy for her, but it's really interesting story anyways, where it's kind of about this woman who comes to terms with severing ties with her emotional attachments and just completely giving herself over to her work. And it's easy to understand because she's a person who invades the identities of other people And how would you not start to lose your own identity by doing that so many times? It's highlighted in the fact of how she murders people. She doesn't just do the easy way of shooting them, even though that's how like her bosses and stuff ask her to do what she's being asked to do. Instead, she goes to the more like personal and violent actions of stabbing people and just kind of lamenting and like enjoying and reveling in this blood and these murder sequences, and just kind of highlights her embracing this lifestyle. I mean, there's a moment at the beginning of the movie where she has to, after every jump or possession she does, she has to go through some personal items and relay back what they are to make sure, I guess, that her brain functions are fully intact and her memories are there. And this is the scene that kind of highlights the whole thing, where she pulls out a butterfly, and at the beginning she says she regrets killing it, and by the end she doesn't. So there's definitely a character change, a character arc. I mean, the end of the movie, she ends up murdering her family, kind of completely severing any emotional ties she has to the real world anymore. But all that is so interesting because the end also plays into this corporation angle of how they are just so easily and willing to invade the personal lives of people just for the bottom line. And that's kind of highlighted a lot throughout this movie. So yeah, this movie is great. It feels fresh. It feels unique in a lot of ways. The acting is top-notch. The visual style is so good. So many stylistic flares, and the way they kind of have these two people pitting against each other in one body is done in a very surreal way with very, like, I don't know, nightmarish visuals. You have some body horror elements and some like explicit violence and sex and nudity. There's man wiener, there's lady vagina throughout this thing. It doesn't hold anything back. Now, like I said, I didn't see the theatrical cut, so I don't know what the differences are though, but this movie will make you uncomfortable and it will leave, a mark well after the credits roll. So this is one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. I freaking loved it. I think if you love genre movies, you should definitely check this out. It's definitely more of a pretentious, artsy genre movie. So keep that in mind. It might be a little more slower paced than what you were expecting, but it's a great time. I loved it. Check it out now, Possessor. So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know what you think about Possessor, and then let me know what I should be watching. Catch you here next time. Goodbye.